and none of us are going to take any of it with us. So, really, if we don't begin right now, this is our opportunity as a world, an entire world, to be paying attention to how are we moving forward? Are we going to continue in the ways we have been doing things, or are we going to begin to look at it differently and really shape our world different in a way that humanity becomes a lot more of a priority than creating things that don't create a life? Welcome to Attitude of Altitude podcast, presented by Planet of One. We're sharing stories and conversations, encouraging and empowering listeners to be bold, take action, and be your best self, so we may be the change we desire to see in this world. Know that your attitude determines your altitude in life. Welcome to the podcast. So, how much real estate do you have? Have you ever thought about it? The most important piece of real estate that you're going to occupy for a very long time is about 2.5 feet wide by 8 feet. And that's your casket. And I'm sorry to sound morbid, but that comes from the reality of paying attention to what matters as we run around in our lives and our building, whatever it is that we're creating and accumulating. At the end of the day, none of us walk away with anything except what we have done for each other and how we treated each other. Our fingerprints, our footprints in the world are our actions and the way that we treat each other. And this came clearly from my dad this morning. Randomly, we're sitting down and he's going through dementia. And this morning he was clear-headed and was deep in thought process. And I said, Dad, what are you thinking about? And he says, the world. I'm going, oh, what is it about the world, Dad, that you're thinking about? He says, we all are gonna end up in this small space, and all the fighting and everything that people go after and they invest their time and life and energy into it, at the end of the day, we're all leaving it behind. What a hard awakening statement for a lot of us to begin doing the things that matter today. No matter what it is that we're working on, ultimately we're working on creating a better life by having better relationships with our families, with our friends, with our workers, with our community, with the entire family of humanity. And if we can begin with that to start with and not lose sight of it, I think we would end up really impacting how we create everything in the world, the prices we even charge for things. If we remember at the end of it, we're creating for other individuals so that we can make their lives better. And that comes so clearly in how we handle everything in our lives. I'm privileged that I get to do a podcast and I get to peer into other individuals' lives and what they've learned from them. Like this past couple of weeks, I've had the privilege of speaking with Peggy Campbell Rush, who's been an educator for over 40 years, has gone through tremendous changes from seeing kids and their parents and how they've evolved. The knowledge that she has is incredible. So that wisdom to see how a person can be a lot more grounded because they have the opportunity to be involved with others' lives. Just recently, Rob Nash, who is a musician that is also creating a movement for kids, for individuals that are going through mental health challenges, in really showing up by being himself. And it's not about accumulating fans, it's not about accumulating wealth, it's about making a difference by being present in the work that he's doing. Those are the things that make the biggest impact on our world. And I think of that often. Right now, I'm in the caretaker mode for my parents, and I say I'm grateful for it because this is an opportunity that I am not going to get to do again. And I get to be a part of my parents' life in such a way that I wouldn't be able to see them as they are if I didn't get to be their taker. I get to see them as the individuals, as the human beings, as all the things that they have gone through and grown through to create the life that they have for themselves and for their kids. And it's always been their priority to make sure that we are well taken care of, that we're better off, and not necessarily financially only, but as individuals, as a family. And really, as kids, when we moved to the States, we were in the uh, poor families, basically, but we never knew that. We never knew that. My parents always had food on the table. They worked, they created the things that they needed to. None of the times did we ever hear that you need to go out there and work so that you can create wealth. The whole idea was always to continue to develop as a person and continue to have great family relationships and be a good citizen of your community and the world. And right now, with everything that's going on, especially after COVID, especially with so many people being disconnected for a period of time and having so many challenges mentally with their economic situation, everything else, getting back to the basics and what matters, living a life that matters, showing up for the people that you love, treating each other well, creating a way that we can all make a difference in how our lives are shaped. And when I look at any individual that looks down at anyone else or even looks up to someone else, I always look at it and go, what is it that you think that this person has that you think you're lacking? Because if you really jump into someone's lives, you might be seeing one end of it and you're seeing the glamorous side of what you would love to see passively for you, but you're not seeing their completeness, the struggles that they might be having, the challenges they might be having as a human being. Because it doesn't matter whether you are a musician, whether you're an entrepreneur and own a bunch of companies, or you're a stay-at-home mom. Everybody has their own internal challenges that they're growing through so that they can become better. But where we collectively can make a gigantic difference is the way we come back and treat each other and allow each other the space for that person to grow into what they need to without judgment. And that's the toughest part right now. The judgment part that we all put on each other, including me. I do it. And the only thing that I can say is I'm aware of it. So I'm working on paying attention and really stepping back when I am putting my own judgment on someone else and go, not your life, Rima. You're there to support, you're there to love, you're there to help, or not be involved at all, because if you can't help someone move forward in what is best for them, don't get involved at all. Don't be a hindrance. So for a lot of us, that judgment piece that comes in to how someone is living their life, what they're doing, what they're having, what they're not having, is crippling us. And none of us are going to take any of it with us. So really, if we don't begin right now, this is our opportunity as a world, an entire world, to be paying attention to how are we moving forward? Are we going to continue in the ways we have been doing things, or are we going to begin to look at it differently and really shape our world different? Different in a way that humanity becomes a lot more of a priority than creating things that don't create a life. creating things that hinder life, that make people run even further on their hamster wheel because they need to get all this stuff versus being present in their own lives, versus understanding that they got to be working on their talent. They got to be working on their emotional states. They need to be working on the things that make them a better version of themselves, because that's what's going to show up for their kids, for their families, for their communities, for the world. So I'm going to encourage each of you, if you're hearing this, and if you're in any position, whether you run a company, whether you actually are a leader, whether you are a mom, to begin paying real attention to how your actions impact someone else. And is it the best thing that's for you and for that person? And always come back to the judgment part, because it's our filtration system that we have learned through the world, that you got to look a certain way, you got to act a certain way. And we tend to think of individuals that are better dressed, that have a better home, that we think of them in some way that they're more evolved. They're an individual. Those are not the things that make you more evolved. What makes you more evolved as a human being is the understanding, the caring, the kindness, the love, respect that you have for yourself and for someone else, allowing them the space to grow into what they need to grow into. Please, if you're listening to this message, I would love for you to comment, pay attention, and really give input in how you're carrying your life. Thank you so much. And please remember, our attitude always, always determine our altitude. I look forward to seeing you in the next podcast.